All right, back program. Let's dive into it. Tennessee takes down New Mexico State. No surprise there. Tennessee dismisses Boo Carter. No real surprise there either. Tennessee set to go into the swamp as 3.5-point favorites. Cody, what do you find to be the most interesting thing coming out of the Big Orange weekend?
Well, the game was not good, not really worth watching. The Boo Carter stuff, they kept saying on the broadcast he had an injury. And they kept, doubling out on that. Boo Carter, he's got an injury. And I was like, he does not have an injury. Like this guy, I don't know if they were unaware of the drama or they just didn't want to get into it, maybe, but.
Well, Tennessee, I think, was allowing the hip injury to kind of be the story on Saturday morning.
Yeah.
Just get through the game. But, I was told that the locker was already cleaned out, before the game. They knew what had happened.
They were just letting that be the narrative.
Yeah, they just didn't want, to have any distractions before the game. Then you just kind of say it. Once Heupel addressed it in the post-game press conference and said, hey, there's an expectation and yada, 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 didn't meet it, you knew what was coming at that point.
Well, the effort, anybody with, a good set of eyeballs could see, why is this guy on the field? He wasn't up to par, as they say, in the golf world. And I don't know why they hung on as long as they did with him. But, in hindsight, you probably would have just gotten rid of him back when all the drama happened. He didn't really contribute much all year. So,
yeah, I feel like now that we are here and we know the end result, obviously it was a big mistake, right? Obviously you wish you wouldn't have gone down that road. And quite frankly, I gotta give it a black mark to Josh Heupel and Tennessee. And really, I think you went 0 for 2. I think you went 0 for 2 in the NIL era because no matter how it ended up, I don't agree with the national narrative that Tennessee did the right thing with Nico. And what I mean by that is not that it was wrong to let Nico go. I'm saying the opposite. But Tennessee was going to play the game with Nico. They were going to let the starting quarterback be the same as your starting defensive back in the sense of I don't really want to be here, but we're going to kind of do our thing and we want more money, but hey, we'll stay if we need to. Tennessee wanted Nico to come back. Josh Heupel wanted Nico to come back. They were going to do the same thing with him. It's just that whenever it got ugly, and the family pulled out and said, we're out of here. Yeah. But Tennessee was going to get held hostage by the Maliava camp, just the same way they did by Boo Carter. And, I do think from a PR perspective, Tennessee got to kind of look like winners in the Nico situation, right? Because it did look like Tennessee pulled the plug on that. But that's not exactly true. That's not exactly true. They did bend over backwards for Boo Carter, and, of course, that has burned them from day one. The lack of commitment to the program, the lack of commitment to football. Boo Carter went from looking like an all-SEC talent last year to a guy that should be at MTSU. And obviously the red flags were there. When you look at his high school transferring, you kind of knew what you were dealing with. And you decided to hop into bed with someone that you knew wasn't really loyal. And then when they kind of showed you that, hey, they ain't really changed, you begged them to stay. You gave them more stuff. You gave them a bigger ring. You bought them a nicer car and said, please, please, please stay. Don't leave me. And then they stayed, I wouldn't even say half committed. It feels like 25% committed to the cause, and it's been nothing but a headache, and it has kind of ruined your team. For everybody that's complaining about the defense, Boo Carter's a big reason why this defense hasn't played up to your standards. There's a big reason why the secondary hasn't really panned out for one way or the other, either because he isn't the player that you thought he was going to be, or he took somebody else's spot, like Jacoby Thomas's, who would have been here and been happy to be here and been playing harder. Either way, Boo Carter is a big, big problem and a big, big part of why this team didn't accomplish their goals this year. And Tennessee kind of has themselves to blame.
Well, you could call it 0 for 3 if you include Jacoby Thomas in there too. the way it worked out. But feels like the way that it happened with Nico is why it happened with Boo Carter, because they knew, I think, that they had made a mistake there, and so then they tried to overcorrect a little bit with Boo Carter. And it obviously he was not a guy that was worth that trouble. I mean, they just kind of maybe blinded by the talent, but the effort was not there.
The talent was definitely there. And I got to say, I mean, Sam, you can correct me if I'm wrong and if I'm rewriting history, but, like, I don't feel like the questions really were there last year in terms of effort and stuff. Like, it seemed like everything had kind of was on the up and up and had passed.
He was good.
Yeah, I mean, he was playing as a true freshman, and, like, it seemed like they were pretty content. And again, at least, like, when he was out there, he was playing hard.
He was 100% playing hard.
Yeah, like, I mean, he was good.
Yeah, you felt good about it coming into the year until the drama happened over the summer.
Do we know how long he had his agent, the guy that represented Ace Bailey?
That was in the off season. I can't remember if it was the spring or summer. That was a new thing. He had gotten rid of an old agent and hired Ace Bailey's agent. That was kind of the talk whenever he went AWOL and, like, was in California. He was supposed to be at practice, and his mom's posting on Facebook about how he should be at Colorado with Dion and yada, yada, yada.
Speaking of his mom, Mama Boo breaking HIPAA violations or stuff out here.
Yeah, I guess it's her son. She could do whatever unless he's like, hey, Mom, don't send that. But, like, yeah, I mean, she posted, like, an MRI of, like, oh, he's got a hurt hip. That's fine, man. Like,
and she's also on a date at that go-karting place on Kingston Pike, so.
She what?
She went on a date Saturday to that go-karting place on
with
Kingston
who?
Pike. Some guy.
You're keeping up with every post, aren't you?
Yeah.
how'd they look? They look happy?
They look cold. They were bundled up. So I don't know if they're ready to go north.
It is kind of cold in there. I was cold the time I went, too. Well, keep an eye on her Facebook, Bubba, and let us know. Because, I mean, like, she is going to say something. And the big question will be, like, where does Boo go now? Like, I know he got linked to some schools. If you think Boo Carter is going to end up at Alabama, I don't really believe it. Like, I think that's kind of naive. But, like, the talent's there. Maybe somebody does say come in and improve it. But, like, I don't see any serious program really signing up for this situation. We got a Vanderbilt fan in the chat. Vandy Dandy, 8575. Is he an honorary freak at this point? He's been in here for about 3 weeks. I think he just likes the show.
He seems to like the show.
Yeah, I think he just likes the show.
It's okay if you're not a Tennessee fan.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, we're Tennessee fans, but you don't have to be a Tennessee fan to like the show.
I don't really have much hatred for Vanderbilt, so, like, you're welcome here, Vandy Dandy, 8575.
We'll see how he acts next week.
Yeah. If he's a jerk next week, we might change our tune. But yeah, he's welcome. He seems all right. He doesn't really troll people too much. He says Boo Carter is welcome to come to Vanderbilt. Well, like that feels like Vanderbilt's prestige would really be dropping there in terms of the requirements to get into school.
I mean, it seems like. Well, not only that, but, Clark Lee runs a pretty disciplined program, it seems.
And I was going to say, and B, I don't think Clark Lee strikes me as the coach that would jeopardize culture, because that's what you would be doing, bringing this guy in at this point, would be jeopardizing culture.
Yeah, I don't even know if Clark Lee wants to put up with that.
And everyone keeps talking about Deion Sanders because the mom, has been posting about Deion Sanders. I don't think Deion Sanders is the type that puts up with that either. Like, Deion Sanders cut a 5-star. Because the 5-star wasn't locked in. What was his name? Cormani McLean? Was that his name?
Mm-hmm.
That guy was a 5-star. Got there. He's like, you ain't got it in between the ears, brother. You ain't got it in the chest, the heart. Like, you ain't playing. And that's at Colorado. Deion doesn't really seem like the type that's with the nonsense. So, like, I don't even think. I mean, I know everyone thinks Boo's going to Colorado. I don't think Deion would really want to deal with the headache either. B, I don't even know if Deion will be coaching next year, because with all his health concerns and his AD getting fired, I don't even know if he would want to be there trying to go through a rebuild. That seems like it would be pretty strenuous on the body, and Deion doesn't need that. He's got money.
It's tough with those guys like that who are knuckleheads, because you see the talent and you want to, subscribe to the talent and be like, well, the guy's so good when he's locked in, but if he's not locked in at all times, it's not going to do you any good. So, letting him walk it is what it is.
There are a lot of guys with talent.
Yeah, and being a locker room problem that outweighs negatively the whatever you can do on the field to me. So seemed like that never really got patched up. I mean, they made it sound like coming into the year that everything was fine. They got it worked out. But
I won't go that far because I do feel like we heard that the teammates weren't still thrilled with him coming back to the team. But
they had that whole leadership council.
Yeah, but it sounded like, hey, we need you because we don't want to lose another defensive back. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't so much that they patched things up. It's just that like, hey, we know that you can ball. And look, here's the thing: if Boo Carter was still good at football, this season probably goes differently in multiple ways. Like the defense is probably better, but also like you deal with the off the field issues because if you're really really good, you put up with it. There's a reason the Eagles never traded A.J. Brown.
Yeah, he's really good.
He's really good, and he still goes out there and plays hard. If he was out there moping around and not catching the ball and they threw it to him and not running full speed, like that would be a different story. But like you can put up with people complaining. You can put up with people being weird and distant if they ball. And Boo Carter ain't been balling.
I wonder what it would have been like if, say, Jermod McCoy had been out there or even Ricky Gibson, like if your corners were in a better situation, like do they, does a guy like Jermod McCoy, does he get in Boo's ear and kind of help him? I don't know. I don't know what kind of relationship they got, but
I would say no. Like
the defensive line obviously didn't like him.
And look, I'm not even going to say that like it was maybe the best move to beat his ass. Like reportedly happened. Like, I mean, that was the talk of this offseason was that he got his ass beat by some defensive players on the leadership council, essentially. Like guys that were trying to hold him accountable that said, hey, we're going to police this themselves. That's a good headline. That makes it look like guys are checked in. That makes it look like you got leadership. But, like, that probably did make it a lonely locker room for Boo Carter. And that probably did ruin any chances of him being back on the team in terms of, like, being fully bought in. Because it would be hard to be somewhere where you knew that everyone didn't like you. I'm not even saying that Boo's wrong for that. But I'll also say that, like, he brought that on himself.
It'd be hard to go to practice every day with a guy who beat your ass.
Yeah, and, like, knowing that they still want to beat your ass. Like, and knowing that, like, everybody was kind of cool with it. Like, I never heard a story about anybody standing up and fighting on his behalf. You know what I mean? Like, that
right.
That would make you feel lonely on the team. I get that. But also, like, there's a reason that happened, and you have to take some responsibility. And I remember us talking about this in the offseason. And, look, to be fair, I mean, I think we all wanted him back because we knew he could play good. And we didn't want to lose two of our best players, two of our most important players before the season. But I remember us talking about it, Cody, and saying, like, hey, you need to kind of go up in front of the team and accept his responsibility to kind of apologize and be like, hey, I'm locked in. And I'm going to imagine that never happened. And you kind of saw it from the get-go whenever he was out there making plays. Nobody on the team really wanted to celebrate with him.
Yeah.
It was very obvious all season long that there was a distance there.
Well, and the refusal to return punts and, like, just he was out there way too long. They let it drag on, I feel.
It was another bad coaching job this season by Josh Heupel. There's been a couple of them. I would say the Boo Carter situation is near the top. Is near the top because he should have cut Bates. He never – I mean, how ridiculous is it in hindsight that we were actually going to let him play offense? Like, we were like, oh, yeah, you can play some wide receiver, man. Trust me. Yeah, you're good.
Mm-hmm.
Come here and play some wide receiver. And who knows if we actually would have let him, but he was practicing at wide receiver. Like, how ridiculous is it that we were going to reward that type of behavior? Like, that – and hopefully, look, all you can ask for from your football coaches, your football teams, your sports teams, really your friends and anybody in life, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your husband, your wife, whatever, your mistress, your mister, all you can ask from people is just that they learn from their mistakes because nobody's perfect, right? Like everyone's going to make mistakes. No one's going to be right about everything. No one's going to make the right decisions about everything. So like when I say it's a bad Josh Heupel coaching job, you do hope that this next cycle you really, really just decide that you're going to protect your culture and you're going to invest in the right people. It's kind of a red flag to deal with people wanting to leave and kind of holding you hostage. I understand that you can't be a zero tolerance policy. Like, hey, Mike Matthews said he wanted more money. We paid him. He played pretty good this year. Did he play up to those expectations? That's up for you to decide. But, like, he at least has been a good teammate. I ain't heard no bad stories about Mike Matthews. You know what I mean? Like, I ain't heard nothing about him pouting or being upset if he's sometimes a third wide receiver. He wanted more money. You gave it to him. It seems like he was bought into the team.
Well, you can't let the inmates run the asylum, for lack of a better analogy.
I got that Houston Texans owner in trouble. You better be careful.
Yeah, well.
Although he was the owner, so it's a little bit different. But
you know what I'm going for, though? Like, you got to have – and I've started to have a lot of questions about Heupel when it comes to just discipline in the program. And the Boo Carter situation, you know, you can look at that the same way you look at the penalties they commit. It's just like it's a lack of focus on, as Josh Heupel would say, the little things, you know, the details. And, like, he talks about it, so he's aware of it, but I need to see some improvement there.
I just think it's pretty clear that Josh Heupel has way too much on his plate right now, whether it's the play call.
Yeah, he has put on a few pounds. That's a good point, Sam. I've noticed that too.
But, like, these are decisions to me that just make it glaringly obvious that Tennessee needs, like, a GM. Like, I think Josh Heupel is too much of kind of a pushover players coach type of guy to where he's like, yeah, you know what, you can still keep on doing this, man. We'll get you back. We'll give you a second chance. Where, like, I think you just need a GM who doesn't really have as much of a, you know, relationship maybe with some of these players to just say, hey, you're coming in here asking for more money. Well, you're not playing up to these standards, so we're not going to give it to you. Or just somebody who can kind of lay down the law a little bit more.
They kind of did that with Jacoby Thomas, which is what's funny because he's gone to Miami and he's played really good. And it is weird because, yeah, they bent the knee to a couple players. They told him no. I think just from watching on the football field, like, again, I don't know how he was acting in the locker room, but I didn't hear anything bad about him. But, like, that's the type of player you would want here representing the T.
Well, the thing is, it's the inconsistency.
Yeah.
You know, the standard has to be the standard.
A GM would be a welcome addition, although I do think you have people over there doing that job already, just without maybe the official title. But, you know, an offensive coordinator that actually, you know, calls some plays and helps, you know, think ahead and take some of that off Josh Heupel's plate because, yeah, I mean, it seems like he's been a little overwhelmed at running a big-time program. And like I said, I'm not super upset about it. It is what it is. I don't think Boo Carter is the reason the season hasn't maybe, you know, isn't going to end in the playoff. I can't put that all on his feet. And I do think, like, if he was balling out like he was last year, then the secondary would be a lot better. But maybe you'd still be drawing dead, dealing what you dealt with, you know, your cornerbacks. Maybe you'd still be drawing dead. I don't know. But like I said, you just hope that Josh Heupel and the coaches learn from their mistakes and that this next go-round in the transfer portal, they are both for the transfer portal of guys that are bringing in and guys they're trying to keep from leaving. You just hope they have a better feel of personalities and, like, hey, somebody might be a 95 in talent or a 90 in talent, but like a 75 or 80 in a head case, problematic ranking. You got to make sure that you are weighing the pros and cons. You've heard of the crazy hot scale, right? When it comes to dealing with lovers,
yeah,
you got to make sure that the crazy hot scale is properly weighed. And maybe you shouldn't even be looking at the crazy hot scale. Maybe you should be looking at this more of like let's just get a couple of safe sevens in here.
You need to be focusing your efforts in the unicorn zone, like Urban Meyer did. He had a lot of crazy, but he had a lot of hot too. Those guys were NFL players.
It all came crashing down for him too, though. It's hard to manage a culture.
Yeah, I mean, even look at Kirby Smart. Even I mean, he's had a ton of issues off the field, but I mean, he seems to keep winning at a high level. So,
I will say for Kirby Smart's off the field issues, I've never watched them play and really thought they didn't want to be out there playing though.
Yeah,
like he still gets them playing and locked in on Saturdays, and it just put on Boo Carter's film. and you can see that wasn't the case for Tennessee. And I get it. We were hamstrung with injuries, so maybe you just had to throw those bodies out there. But I do think it was kind of fitting. I know the game on Saturday was ugly, but it did make me happy seeing and hearing, about William Wright's interception afterwards, the walk-on. He's talking about how he's worked every day, for 5 years for that moment.
Yeah, those are the guys you want.
It is, to me, kind of poetic that on the day that, the talented prima donna gets cut, it's the walk-on that really wants to be out there playing football. He gets to have his moment. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
We'll continue the conversation on the other side. It's Talk Sports on FanRun Radio.